I've built automations for companies with 6 all the way to 8 figures, and today I'm going to show you exactly how you can charge 5x more money for the same amount of work. Here we go. So I have this N18 scenario here, automation I built to scrape Google Maps, and then what I've done is added a very simple front end using BOLT.NEW in here. So let's run this. Then what I'm going to do is I've already filled out a form, so I've got search terms. What search terms do you want to fill in? HVAC. Location, what location of Google Maps do you want to scrape? New York. How many companies do you want to extract? 10. Start extraction. In just about 30 seconds, we're going to be receiving a Google Sheet with 10 companies scraped data. And today I'm going to show you exactly how you can do this for yourself. So right now on the back end, it's probably scraping, using Apify to scrape Google Maps, creating a brand new Google Sheet. There we go. Let's scroll up here, open new Google Sheet. There we go. We get sent a Google Sheet with this company's data that we have formatted nicely. Their name, category, website, phone number, reviews rating, and reviews count. The data, this is only the start of the data. You can get so much more data. This is just the dummy data I've shown throughout this video. And I'm going to show you exactly how you can do this in just under 1 hour. Okay, so to build this out, to build the design to my AI automation, what I'm going to do is use a tool called BOLT.NEW to build the design. And then we're going to be using N18 and a tool called Apify to scrape Google Maps. So in here, I've created a small flow of what the N18 flow in particular will look like. So we're going to be scraping Google Maps based off of user input within our BOLT.NEW design form that we create. And then we're going to be sending data to and from N18 from Bolt using webhooks. Webhooks are essentially, we're going to be using essentially to create a notification. So once a action or a button is clicked within our Bolt's design, a notification will be sent with the data submitted. So the form data that the user inputs based off what they want to scrape off Google Maps, that data will be sent as a notification to N18 to trigger the flow and then scrape Google Maps. And then we're going to be using a respond to webhook node to send that data back to tell Bolt, hey, we have finished the flow, everything's been scraped and it's been successful. Or it will say, hey, we've had an error. So you'll get to understand a little bit more what I mean by that as we build this out. So I'm going to say, hey, Bolt, I want you to create a form-like interface where users fill out forms. I'm just going to say this for now. The questions are, and then I'm going to find these questions by going over to Apify. You have to create an account if you haven't already. And then I'm going to be going Apify Store and to the Google Maps scraper. So you can find it here, or you can search in here, Google Maps scraper. And then it's this first one here. This is what we're going to be using to scrape Google Maps. And then we can see some fields here: search terms, location, number of places, and language. I think we're going to keep it at that for now. But you can see you could ask some other questions as well. But for now, I'm going to keep it pretty basic. I'm going to say search terms. Going to add that in. Then I'm going to do location. I'll just copy these headers directly in. And then I'm going to say number of places to extract. And I'm just going to copy all of this in. And then language. I think I'm going to keep that at English. So I'm just going to keep that the same. And then I'm just going to simply enter that in. For Bolt, I'll definitely only use Bolt for building out MVPs. For this purpose, I'm building this more out to be kind of a helpful internal tool that your company would use to create a design to some tools that you build as a business, which can be helpful for your whole team. So it's just a nice design that you build with purpose. And yeah, you can build some pretty cool things and make them super easy to use. And visualize them, more importantly. Visualize them. Okay. This is taking a little while. I'm not sure why it deployed it. Looks like it deployed the app. We don't need that. But here we go. We can see all the questions, the form-like interface, number of places to extract. Okay, this is good. And then basically what I want to do is when the user clicks this button, I want that to trigger that webhook within N18 and then send all of the answers that the user inputs to N18. So we're essentially creating our own API endpoint with webhooks. Okay, so then we're going to head into N18 and add a webhook node. This is going to be an HTTP method post request because this is what all of the no-code or AI code builders use. I'm going to copy that. Alt. What happened there? Let's go back to our app. I'm going to simply say to Bolt, can you add this webhook to the start extraction button so that, yeah, I'll just say to the start extraction button and then ask. So now after this, I should have asked it to send these values over as well, but it did that automatically. And you can see here it says send a post request to your webhook. So basically these requests, these HTTP methods, they have to align from both ends. So Bolt has to be sending an HTTP method of post, and so does N18. If they misalign, for example, if the HTTP method here in N18 is a get, and then in Bolt it's a post, there will be an error because these HTTP methods have to align. This is something they made a long time ago, so yeah. Okay, now let's test this and see if it works. Search term, I'm gonna say HVAC location New York 10. Let's run this, see if it works. Request submitted successfully. And here we go. We can see the data. I'm going to pin this data so I can use it over and over again. And there are our answers. Now what we can do is add a node, HTTP. We're going to be using this to initiate the scraper in Apify. So if you head over to Apify, create an account if you haven't already. I have, so I'm just going to click Go to Console. Go to the Apify store and then go search in the search bar, Google Maps Scraper. And it's the first one here. And then in here, you'll be able to see a bunch of different fields like search term, location. I've already told you this. My brain isn't braining today. What we need to do now is go to API endpoints, and then go run act asynchronously and get dataset items. Copy that, paste it in this HTTP request. And the reason we use this specific endpoint that we did, if I head back in here, the reason we use this endpoint is because it's going to run the scraper. It's going to wait till the scraper finishes scraping, and then it's going to retrieve that data all within one request, all within this HTTP node. It's going to do all of that. And then the method, we can see it's a post method here. So we're going to change this to be a post. Okay, and then once we've done that, now we need to head back to Google Maps to get the JSON. So we're going to get a JSON body. So before we do that, let's click send body. Body content type is JSON, and then the specified body we're going to select using JSON. So if we head back to the scraper in Apify, we can see right here, there's a manual or JSON mode. We're going to click JSON. Then we get provided with all of this JSON that we're just going to copy, Command A, Command C, and paste it directly in here. Then I'm going to click expression right here, and then I'm going to expand it for you guys. And then what we can do here is use our dynamic variables we've gotten from the webhook that we've retrieved from the Bolt app and dynamically place them in here. So this might look a bit overwhelming at the moment, but just as long as you follow my steps, we'll get through it. Like a breeze. Okay, so the location, all this needs to be is we delete the current location and then we drag and drop the location variable from the webhook in between these quotes. Then the max crawled places per search, we delete that and we drag and drop from the webhook right there. Max images, we can leave all of this. Then we got search string array, i.e. the keywords. the search term, so we can drag and drop that in between those quotes. And is that everything? Just those three? Yes, just those three. And now, that's all we need to do. Now this should work. I'm going to rename this to Google Maps Scraper with Apify. Google Maps Scraper with Apify. Now let's see if this works. So we're going to run this. Now it's running. The actor is running. We can see if it's running by hitting back into runs in Apify. We can see it's running, which is a good sign. We can see everything here, the usage. There we go. It's gotten 10 so far, and that is our total, I believe. Yes. So it scraped 10 for 0.05 cents. That's incredibly cheap. Now if we click here on the left-hand side, we can see the output. And then we can see it's run, everything's been run successfully. And also if we head back into NA10, head into this HTTP node, we also get the output of all of this data here. Now what we can do is we can play around with this data. So I think in this case, I'm just going to add the data into a Google Sheet, so then it can act as a sort of lead list. So I think I'm going to create a sheet. So I'm going to go Sheets, and then I'm going to search create a sheet. I believe it's this one. No, it might be create. It might be another one. Let me go Sheet, create a spreadsheet, sorry, not create sheet. So we're going to use that. We're going to delete this one. Then we're going to go to settings. This is important. Go execute once. Otherwise, if you don't select execute once, you can see these 10 items here. It's going to create 10 spreadsheets. So ensure you select the settings and execute once. Now we're going to create that, and then what should we name it? Do we have any dynamic variables? Maybe HVAC. Drag and drop that in there from the webhook. HVAC, and then maybe drag and drop the location. HVAC, comma, you can see down here live the result. I'm just dragging and dropping these in from the answers. HVAC New York. I don't know, maybe we say leadless, maybe? I'm just thinking you'll probably do this and use this if it were a lead list that you're going to reach out to these people. Create spreadsheet. So there we go. I think that's okay. I'm going to run this. It's taking a while. I'm actually going to pin this data. That's what I should have done. I'm going to pin this data from now on from the Google Maps scraper so we don't have to wait each time. So I'm going to pin this. And there we go, the spreadsheet ID. To get this, because I don't want to enter my Google account, I'm just going to create a new account and replace the ID. There we can see HVAC New York lead list. Let's head back here. And yes, is that everything? Yeah. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to place some of this data into here. So I'm going to go Sheets again. And I'm going to do append a row. So I'm going to search append row in Sheet. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this by ID, the document. The document is going to be here. And then list, I'm going to say name, and I'm just going to say sheet 1 because we're not renaming the sheets. You can see down here, this is the sheet name, sheet 1. So I'm just going to leave it at sheet 1 because if we're creating a sheet by default, the name will always be sheet 1 unless you physically rename the sheet to something else, like down here. So I'm just going to keep it at sheet 1. And then we will have to do map automatically. Because there are no headers, we cannot drag and drop these in there. Drag and drop like dynamic variables in here because there have been no headers created in row 1. Which is a bit unfortunate. Make.com does do this. But unfortunately in NA10 they don't. And what I'm going to do then, because we have to map it automatically, is add a set node in here. And I'm going to actually show you guys why right now. If I run this, I'm going to show you exactly why I'm going to add a set node and do what I do, or what I'm going to do after this runs. So I'm going to pick up this sheet ID. I'm going to replace the sheet ID here. You'll also be able to find this in your Google Drive. So you can see here, this isn't what I expected actually, but here, look how messy that is. Look how messy that is. That's just an absolute mess. So we do not want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a set node here. A set. And then I'm going to extract the exact properties I want. So what I'm going to do is I think I want the title, which is, oh, not the title. This is the Google Sheet title. No, go to the Apify scraper. Then I'm going to go to the title here. I guess this is the name of the company. So I'm going to say name. I'm going to add another field. Category. Yeah, why not? Why not? Category. What else? We're going to do website. Website. We are going to do phone. Phone. I'll say phone number. And what else do we have here? We have a lot of interesting information here. Total score. I believe this is the reviews. It must be. So this guy has good reviews. 4.8 stars. Review rating. Categories. What else? Review count. This could be good as well. Like 77 reviews at 4.8 stars. That's pretty good. Images. Opening hours. You can see all of this data. We've got much data. Let me see, what else do we have here? Searching string. State postal code. That could be interesting if you want to do that. The city, the neighborhood. That could be interesting. See, so you can get much more in depth with this and add really whatever you want. For now, I'm just going to say, and use these, I'm going to say set information to put in sheet. Set information to put in sheet. And then once we do this, because we are choosing map in column mode, map automatically, this should map it nicely with each of these fields that we have set representing an individual header and column. So if we run this now, we need to change this because we've added that set node. Let's remap this. Google Sheet ID, map it there. We're going to still keep this at sheet 1. Oh, 1, there we go. And then map automatically. Let's run this. The alternative route to mapping this would be to make an HTTP request. And then you can add headers. And then once you've added headers into the Google Sheet, you can then append a row and manually map each variable using the map each column manually. But then you have to go into the Google Sheets documentation, and it's much more manual, much more technical as well. And for the purposes of today, this is good. You can see everything's working as expected. We're adding the headers, and they're each of the headers from the set variable. We've got the name, the category, website, phone number, rating, the website, and then even what you can do beyond this, if you wanted to do, is you can scrape their website as well. So I could show you how to do this. Basically what you do, you can scrape it completely free as well. You can go HTTP, and then all you have to do is method get, drag and drop their website in there. I'm not going to run this whole flow. But then basically when you run this, you get the entire HTML to their website, which is pretty cool. You'll need to loop through these. So to do this, you would need to add a loop because it just tried to scrape 10 websites at once. So this should work now. Website, HVAC, locked. Usually this works. Maybe some websites have been getting more advanced. Maybe the websites have been getting more advanced. Let me see if I manually put this in. Does this work? Okay. This does work. This does work. For 90% of websites, this works. Let me go here. I'm going to filter it. I'm going to say, actually, it doesn't matter because I'm not going to add this. But this does work. For 90% of websites, this does work. You can simply just get a website. Like, for example, let me go. What is it? Left click. Let's get our friend over from Left Click AI, Nick Sarav. For example, if you scrape this site, you go test step, this will scrape all of his data. You can see here. This is the HTML to his website. I know I had to show you guys this works, so you guys didn't think I was full of fluff. But then if we go set here, or if we actually not go set, I want to be able to view this data. If we go JSON, we get this long piece of HTML that we can then use and refine to feed into AI and basically inform AI with more information into creating a response, for example, a personalized response of some sort. So you can usually 90% of the time it didn't work for that one-off website, but usually you can just simply use a get method and an HTTP node, and you can scrape your entire HTML to their website, which is pretty cool. But anyway, back to this. We created the sheet, we added the rows, but it did only add one row, and that is because this ran once. So we will need to fix that. Let's run this all again. So we're expecting 10 rows here. But because we're saying here, execute once, it doesn't run all the way through, like all of the data points don't go all the way through, and we're only outputted with one row instead of 10. So what we could do is add some filtering here. I'm going to do, this is going to look ugly, and this is going to mess with me a little bit, but I'm going to add a set node here. And then I'm going to say item count, and then I'm going to basically make this an expression, go two curly braces, $, item index, yes, and that's all I'm going to do. This will count all of the items moving through. Count items. So this is going to count all of the items. Let's just test this. This should have 0 to 9. It's counted all of the items, and now we can filter. So we want the first item only to go ahead and create a spreadsheet. So I'm going to go add an if statement, and I'm going to say if item count is equal to 0, because the item count starts at 0, it goes 0 for the first item, then 1 for the second item, then 2, 3, 4, etc. If the item count is equal to 0, i.e. Is the first item, if that's true, then it goes ahead and creates a spreadsheet and then goes down this path. But if it's not, then we can just directly plug it in to set the information to put into the Google Sheet and then add it to the Google Sheet. So now let's see if this works. Let's run this. It's creating the sheet. So one item, the first item went down here, and the other 9 items went down here. But we did get an issue, and I think I know why. It's because we should loop through these. We should loop through these. Because again, it's pushing 9 items through to this set node. And is this setting all of them actually? It does set all of them. Is it? Why does that happen? What is happening here? No path back to node. It actually should be okay. It's just an issue here. There's no path back to node. Okay. Okay, so what I did there is usually if you zoom in here, it's by default after this. It's usually by default item.json.spreadsheet ID, but by default it's always item.json. But sometimes I always try this. If you do last, which means the last item, you can also change this to first if you wanted the first item only. But when you do this, sometimes it works and then it becomes green again, which it did there. So then it works. So it's good. And the reason I can do first and I can extract only the first item is because the sheet ID is going to be the same every single time. So it works. But this, of course, wouldn't work if you use first and last, if the items are always changing, because first means that it's only going to collect the first item. It's not going to collect any other items, only the first item that comes through. And last, it's only going to pick the last item. And in this case, it doesn't matter because the spreadsheet ID is going to be the same every time anyway. So now let's run this and it should work. There we go. It's created the sheet. 10 items have gone through. Let's copy this. Copy this. Where am I going? My brain is absolutely switched off today. Feels fried. Feels fried. Okay, let's replace the Google Sheet ID and see if we get 10 rows in there. If I pasted the wrong ID, wait, let me go Command Z, create this sheet. Let me copy this properly now. Hopefully this works. Otherwise, I mean, I've done something wrong. There we go. We've got the headers there. We have got the 10 fields, HVAC contractors, all different companies. Some don't have a website. I'm surprised an HVAC company doesn't have a website. And then we've got the reviews and the review counts. Of course, you can get as in-depth as you want with this. You could add their website HTML there. And then basically what you could do is send this list into AI to personalize a cold email or a message. For example, you could also use this information to create blog posts. It would help a lot if you did scrape their website and put their website HTML in here, and then you would feed that into AI, all of this information. Of course, this isn't a whole lot of information to go off of, but I think once you get the context of what their website is about, then you can really start getting a good looking piece of personalized information. So yeah, but that's outside the scope of this video. And now basically that all of this is working, what I want to do is add a respond to webhook node. And this is going to respond. I think it can respond with first incoming item. I'm going to say execute once. It could respond with all incoming items because I'm thinking all of this information is going to a Google Sheet. All I want, perhaps I respond to them with the Google Sheet ID. So if I go down here, and I'm just going to go text, and I'm going to say Google Sheet, not ID, sorry, URL. And then I'm going to go down to create spreadsheet. You might notice we don't have the Google Sheet URL, so we will have to construct it with the Google Sheet ID we have. And to construct it, I'm just going to simply copy this entire URL, paste it in here, and then all we have to change is this ID here. I believe, actually, let me try something quickly. I believe we can even make it simpler. Yes. We can delete this whole last part, and then all we have to delete is everything after the /D. Everything after that can delete. Everything, even that edit gid stuff. Everything after the /D can be deleted, and then just drag and drop your Google Sheet dynamic variable after the /c, and then you have a functional Google Sheet URL, and you can confirm that by copying this result here and seeing if it takes you to the same Google Sheet, and it does in this case. There's that same Google Sheet. So this is good. Now basically, what I want to do is I want to respond with this Google Sheet to Bolt. So Bolt will output a Google Sheet URL to the user. Cool. Now once the user clicks the Start Extraction button, can you wait until the webhook responds? The webhook will respond with a Google Sheet URL that I want you to display to the user. And then I want to provide it with the exact JSON. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin all this data because I don't want to create a million Google Sheets in my Google Drive. Okay, well, I have to. Let's just create all of this then. Because what I want to do is extract this output because each response webhook node has unique JSON, and Bolts basically has to insert that JSON into its code. So what I'm going to do is the same thing I did before. I'm going to do first two brackets, sorry. Now it will work. There we go. Now I want to look at this output, go JSON, and then I'm going to feed this JSON into into Bolt, but I'm not sure why we're getting this, because I put this response body. Note that the node will only run for the first item in the input data. Okay, so what we have to do, I should remember this, I got this issue the other day. I always forget about it. We should put all of the data in here. If we have a mix of dynamic data and static data, i.e. This green variable that changes with each given input, and then the static information that stays the same with each run, these basically clash with each other. So, and then manipulates the output. So basically what I'm going to try to do is instead add a set node and go set webhook information. And then I'm going to say here, set webhook information. And then I'm just going to simply copy and paste what I did have in here. Command X, paste it in there. And then I'm going to map this output entirely into here. So it's only going to be dynamic. There is going to be no static. There's going to be no static and dynamic. It's only going to be dynamic. So hopefully, I'm hoping this now works. And of course, Google Sheets has entered a token limit. We have reached the maximum request per minute, so I'm just going to wait a few minutes and get back to you guys. Okay, so I've waited a couple of minutes now, so I'm going to see if it works. Hopefully it does. There we go. Okay, so this runs 2 times. But we are seeing now we're only getting that Google Sheets URL that we did put dynamically in, so that's good. But I also did say execute once, so this is weird. Because this is running twice, because it has 2 inputs. And then that means this and this is running twice. Okay. So I think I know what I'm going to do here. I think I'm going to add a merge node right about here. delete these two and go add node. And I think I'm going to add a merge node. This should stop there from being 2 runs, although that, no, Seb. That's not going to change anything. That's not going to change anything. Okay. Time to do a little bit of thinking. We have 9 items moving through there. We have 2 sets of 9 items here. Does that mean... Wait a minute. Does that mean it was duplicating? No. No, because the first time it would have just added 1 row, and the second time 9 rows. Yeah, no. So that's not the issue. Yeah, because the first item is only 1 row, 1 set of data, and the second time it's all of the sets of data, the rest of the 9 rows. So we got to do a bit of brainstorming here, a bit of thinking. How are we going to stop this? Huh. Maybe. No, a merge node will work. Yes. A merge node will indeed work because it should wait. It should wait. So if we put both inputs here in input 1 and 2, when this path goes down, it should wait at the merge node until all of these other items enter the merge node, which will mean it outputs only 1 item instead of 2. Which, let me see if is right to actually see that, because that's incredibly quick. I'm going to add a quick wait node to see if it does indeed wait, or if it runs. It does wait. It does wait. We could see in that brief moment, it waits here, as this path has already been completed. So this wait node is indeed going to work. It's got 10 items in here instead of 9. It's got item count in there as well, but that won't matter because we are setting this data. So hopefully this works now. Let's see if this outputs only 1. And now all of these are executing once. You can see here on the tick, before there was 2, and now there is no number, which means it only executed once. And now this, when we have the setting set to execute once, it should only execute once. There we go. It executes only once, which is exactly what we want. Using this merge node. Let's tidy this up a little bit. There we go. Okay. Let's see if... Cool, now can you... yes. Here is the JSON from the response to webhook node. Almost forgot, lucky I typed that prompt in. Now I want to copy this JSON. So Bolt knows exactly what to expect in the code when the response webhook node sends the notification and sends this data to it. It knows, well, now knows, hey, it's going to send me information in this data, so then it's going to format the code and do whatever it does in the code to accommodate for this JSON format. Hopefully this doesn't take too long. Also, one thing I've learned, I'm not sure if I said this before, but with AI coders in general, what I like to do is take it in chunks. Usually I'll say, hey, I want you to build this design. Make all of the data static. I don't want any backend. I don't want any functionality to it except the design itself. And then once I get a good looking design, then I'll look around and kind of pinpoint parts. I'll say, okay, now can you add, like we did here? We created the design and I was like, okay, can you add a webhook to this button? And then it'll go away and do that. And then if it's a bigger SaaS application, then I'll say, hey, now can you do this and this? And I'll try to take it in as small chunks as possible so it minimizes the chances for hallucination within the AI coders, because if you ask the AI coder to do a big task all at once, front end design and back end, to power the app, then there's a high chance for hallucination where the AI goes off on its own kind of path, doing completely not what you want to do. So I've found by being a lot more specific and splitting everything up into chunks, you can get a far better output and far better result. Okay, let's see what Bolt has said here. Form extracting is it goes to a loading state. It waits for your webhook to complete processing, and then it passes that JSON to extract the Google Sheet URL, displays a beautiful success page, a success message with the sheet link. We'll be the judge of that. Let's see if it's a beautiful success message. And then key features added. Okay, so I think we can try this out now. Yeah, we're going to try this out, but before I try it, I need to unpin all of this data. Let's unpin this. Although we could actually pin this. I don't want to come into the risk of encountering the Google Sheet rate limits again. So I think I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to command enter to watch for new flows. And then I'm going to say search term HVAC. I believe I still have it pinned. New York 10 start extraction. So now it's extracting online. There's an error submitting your request. Okay, I'm going to attempt this fix. I'm also going to look in N18 and see what it was. Ah. Okay, this is important. Because we are now using a respond to webhook node, we have to change this respond to using respond to webhook node. Okay, that's important. Okay, we cannot ignore that anymore. So let's just do this again. Command enter to run. I always forget to do that. I really do. I always forget to do that. It looks like it did work, but let's see here now. HVAC, New York, it's running. Start extraction. Okay. I might make it JSON then. JSON response body. Let me try this. It said it wasn't valid JSON. Invalid JSON in the response body. Text. But I should just be able to respond with this text now. Okay, maybe I'll say to Bolt. Let me try this again. HVAC, New York. Let me run this. Make this text. Run. Submit. Wait, I actually want to do this, and I'll say fix error. HVAC, New York. Start extraction. It says Google Sheets. It says the respond to webhook node was not valid JSON. Can you adjust your code accordingly? Because I did respond with text, so let's see if we can fix it. Because I didn't realize I'm responding with text and not JSON, so let's just see what happens. Yeah, because it's a non-JSON response. That's my bad. That's my bad because I said respond with text, not JSON. Had another mind blank. Okay, there we go. This should work now because it's watching for respond with text as was specified in the Google Sheet. Here. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Wow. That is beautiful. Indeed, Bolt. I think you're correct. That is indeed beautiful. Let's run it again to see. I'm gonna name this one so I can see if the Google Sheets. Oh, they won't be different though. I'm gonna unpin this data and then unpin this data also because I want to see if it's different. Like if this link up the top changes each time, it should, but let's just confirm. It's gonna take a little longer. Let's go here. Okay, it doesn't have the one. This was the old one. That's why I put the one in the title. Cool. So of course this is just a very simple automation, but you can see how quickly you can build internal tools, in particular, simple ones like these can present a very large amount of time saved, especially putting a nice UI in like this. Of course, you could only add things to this from now on. You could add a log of all your past created Google Sheets and extracted lead lists or companies from Google Maps. You could add a log there, a very simple logging page. But then in saying that, you might have to then connect to Superbase. I'm not too sure. Like to store all of that data. I'm not sure if you could store that locally. But yeah, all of this. And then if it's an internal tool, in reality, you could just simply organize these into your own files in your folder, sorry. So yeah, you have to do move a file. So you could go to Google Drive and then you would go move a file. You would use this node here to move the file, to move the Google Sheets into the location of your choice. So you'll just select this drop down list and then choose a folder that you want to put it into. So it's automatically organized there. And then here for your convenience, you have a link, right? But you could add virtually whatever else you want to this. You could create a whole bunch of micro tools, or just micro tools within your company to really solve and streamline some processes from building such simple small tools like this. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this small little video going over how you can really level up your AI automations and start taking things to the next level and leveling up the perceived value that your clients are getting. You can even do this within your own automation clients because these are going to be internal tools, right? The companies, most likely they're going to be internal tools, so you can build these front ends without thinking about security too much or having mass users applied to your application because it's going to be just within the company. When you go and want to build a full-blown SaaS, you have more security concerns and people stealing data, but when it's internally, you have much less concerns from the security side, from the user side, and all of that because it's just an internal tool that your team uses and only your team has access to. So yeah, see you guys in the next one.